Morning. Before I start, I want to thank the Lord. God knows what I'm referring to. It was a special request from myself. And it's like, Lord, please intervene. I believe he did, and I want to thank him. But he knows what it is. I won't go into detail. But I appreciate God's goodness and love. So the photo today is not what I wanted. Normally, the platform I use does such a good job with, if you give it a really good prompt, it tends to, I think, do a pretty good job creating what you wish. But it didn't do exactly what I wanted, but I used one of its suggestions and it helped out. So when you look at the photo, I want to start with something I actually read on a platform online. I'm going to quote it. There is a difference between merely controlling behavior and changing hearts. And I really like that. There is a difference because I guess for me, it makes me think in particular of my job. There is a difference between merely controlling behavior and changing hearts. I tend to think, and I know y'all have heard me mention this, I tend to think in analogies, especially when it comes to a Sunday school lesson. I might do that in conversation. My wife would maybe, I don't know that I pay attention to it as much, because in conversation, she may know if I do that or not. But I found myself, for some reason, I thought, we'll soon be starting a school year. I don't know that this is why I thought about it. But I started reflecting on different classroom management strategies, things that I have found that work pretty well with students. And I thought about how they can apply to how Jesus works with us, or how they can apply to ways other brothers and sisters or men and women of God, how they use different methods, strategies to work with converts or to help a fellow Christian. And it's not about discipline in those ways always. It might be in some regards, but different strategies. And I'm going to focus on what I felt like is the most important strategy that helps with classroom discipline, with classroom order, and how that is the same. It applies to people who want to serve the Lord, and as you help and work with people. So again, the image, I really wanted something of a teacher in a classroom, just something more specific in that regard. And I tried to create one, and it's kind of funny what happened. ChatGPT gave me this explanation that there was nothing wrong with my prompt, but their filters are picky with any kind of request that can involve apparently the word children. And it was like, you've done nothing wrong. It's just, it's a filter issue. And so it gave me suggestions of how I could, isn't that funny? Of how I could rephrase my request so that it could create the image I was going for. So I went with one of its suggestions, and that's what it came up with, which I think was appropriate for the analogy. And I'll let you look at the photo as you wish. So I want you to think about another statement. So I started out with this one that I thought was really good. There is a difference between merely controlling behavior, and that is sometimes the number one goal. If I think of my job as an analogy, a lot of times that's what young ones can really struggle with and strive for. They think of it as, and it can be to some degree, controlling behavior. But there's a difference when you can enter the realm of changing behavior. When you enter the realm of changing, this says changing hearts. But there's a big difference in controlling someone and helping change someone. There's a difference in children understanding, yes, this man's in control, and there's a level of respect that can come with that. Some kids are raised that way, but not all kids. But there's a big difference when they understand, oh, he just is trying to help me change some things so I can be better as a student or a better person in life. There's a big difference. Control versus understanding how to help someone change something. And I want you to think of another statement, if you will. A classroom, now again, I'm using my job as an analogy. You could think of it if it applied to your job in any way. A classroom can be controlled through fear, but it is transformed through relationships. There's a difference in trying to control a scenario than there is trying to change a scenario through building a relationship with someone. Those are two very different scenarios. Depending on your situations, you just walk in cold into a room because you're a substitute or filling in for a class. You may just feel like you got to control the scenario for a minute. You don't have time for the other part. But a classroom can be controlled through fear, but it is transformed through relationships. Likewise, God is not merely interested in forcing our compliance. He desires to write his law upon our hearts so that we willingly walk with him. And I thought, what an interesting way. For me, I work with analogies as a comparison of students. Yes, I need to be the one in charge. I'm the adult. But when you build or you transform the situation through relationships, there are people who will behave for you when they won't behave for someone else, because there's a relationship there. They have written something upon their heart that communicates, I understand you care about me, and therefore, because I appreciate that, I will care about you. They are very different scenarios. Control and change, sometimes one might be needed in an emergency situation, but if you can change a behavior, if you can alter an attitude, if you can build a relationship, it can make a kid in particular reframe and rewrite the narrative for themselves. They have a different understanding. God gives us a free will. It is not a forced situation. He desires to write his law upon our hearts so that we willingly walk with him. And you'll know the verse, Jeremiah 31 and 33, but this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. He's not, though I recognize God's authority, I recognize Jesus' authority and ability to guide my life, but it comes from a place, he changed me. It wasn't a submission to the concept of control. It was a submission to the understanding, he has changed my life. There is a relationship that I have. Do the people, if you wish to look at it with me, do the people in the picture who surround that prominent individual in the middle, do they look happy to be there? I listened to my wife process the image. She was looking at it on the way here, and I was listening to her personal thoughts. It's kind of cute. Lord have mercy, no. There ain't nothing happy about those people. To me, they look forlorn. To me, they look out of place. They look like they don't feel like they belong. They look like they are in bondage. That is not what Christ wants for my life. He does not offer a forlorn experience, one that feels like a bondage impressed upon us through just the concept of control. Do I want him to control my life? Yes. Why do I want him to control it? Because he's changed me and given me the understanding he has best knowledge of what is best for my life. I can use it just for my job. You can control a scenario, and there are people who will comply because they don't want to get in trouble. But once they understand they need to change their behavior, and these are the reasons why, they can submit to that control because they know your ultimate goal is you just care about them, and they'll listen. If you look at the person, the man in the center, he seems to be literally the center of attention. How does the picture depict him as the center of attention? My wife mentions this when she was going over it. She didn't say center of attention, but she noticed the difference. What's he got shining on him? A light. The others are surrounded in darkness, as if he's the only one worthy of attention. The people surrounding him seem to be very much to understand that they are a subordinate to him. There is nothing there that implies relationship. There is nothing there that implies they have a reason to feel that they belong. When you work to build a classroom culture, the number one thing, I used to have a board. A friend of mine sent me a random message once and said, can you take a picture of your bulletin board? I'm presenting to some people, and I want to use it. And I was flattered. That was sweet of her. But I used to have this bulletin board that said, it matters that you are here. That's all it said. Because that is what? That builds a culture of you matter. It's important to me that you're here. It doesn't look like a work environment conducive to positive relationships, does it? And I hope none of you have ever worked in that scenario. I have not. I've been very spoiled. I've never really been in a scenario like that. It does not look like an environment that is conducive to building anything positive with other people. To me, they look the best way. I think my wife said this word. She said this, I believe. She says, they look miserable. And that is how people can feel. Sometimes I think about a classroom, if the only thing a child can understand is that there's this concept of control, often, even though there's a level of you have to understand there are people who have control of situations. My boss has control of the school. She therefore has a level of control over me. She can govern my actions and govern what is acceptable. And I submit to that because I have a relationship with her. I understand she may change things because it's best. It's what's better understood. It's not just because I view her as in control, and I'm not miserable. Maybe the others around the man in the middle are possibly just afraid of him. They only operate in subjection out of fear. That is not always, though it can be, depending on when you're dropped in a situation, maybe you have to have there's a little bit of what we call healthy fear, that is for sure, that can help in scenarios. And that may work as a classroom management strategy in an emergency situation or in a short term. But I'm thankful that in the long term, it's not just about getting people they understand control because you're helping them change behaviors. And I think about how Christ does that for me. There are things in my life I've changed. Not just because Christ said to me, but I'm in charge. It's okay for me. I understand he is, and I can accept that because ultimately he's changed my life. I understand he loves me. This verse in John 14 and 15, if you read it in light of what we're using as the analogy, these next two words, why does it say we keep his commandments? Because we love him. It doesn't say, if ye fear me, if you are afraid of me. It doesn't say that. Now, there are verses in the Bible that use the term fear when it comes to respecting God's authority over our lives. So I did a little research, and I want to read two of these verses to you. Proverbs 1 and 7, because I thought about that verse, if ye love me, keep my commandments. As a classroom teacher, the goal is not that everybody, quote unquote, like you. I am not their friend. I am their teacher. But if they can respect me and if they can know I love them, guess what they often do? They follow the rules. They keep the expectations of the classroom. And it's not stressful and a lot of work because you build that from the very beginning. You work, it's not just about saying, I am in charge, though they have to understand that to a degree. It's, I help you be your best. And when I have rules and expectations, they are ultimately for you. It's not just about me exerting a level of control. And I thought, I appreciate Christ does that. He gave me a free will. Why do we serve him? Because we love him. He first loved us. In Proverbs 1 and 7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. And I started thinking that it's true that verse does not say, it begins if you love me, not if ye are afraid of me. But I thought but there are verses that reference fear. So I thought, I wonder what they mean in the original text. So I did a little research. In Proverbs 1 and 7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. So there is a level of fear that people experience. I had a healthy, what I would call, fear of maybe my parent role, my parental figure in my life. But it wasn't because I was afraid she would do something bad to me. There was a fear that was really stemmed from respect, from understanding she had a position of power above me. And I submitted to that out of respect and love and my respect for her. There's also a verse in Proverbs 9 and 10, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. I think the difference there, fear does not always have to mean shake and quake. I'm afraid they're going to do something to me. Fear can also mean you stand in respect, and that's what I learned. So in my research, the meaning of fear used in those types of verses, this is what I found, and I want to just read it. In the Old Testament verses, the word translated fear in the Hebrew word Y-I-R-A-H, yirah. Yirah carries a range of meanings. Fear, reverence, awe, respect, honor, deep recognition of someone's greatness. It can refer to terror in some context, but when used of God, especially in wisdom literature like Proverbs, it generally means a profound reverence. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Where does knowledge begin? With the profound reverence that it comes from God. That makes sense, doesn't it? I think. It originally means a profound reverence and awe that leads to obedience. I was not afraid of my mother in the sense that I feared she would do something terrible to me. But I did have enough knowledge to know I best behave, or God forbid when I was young, be sneaky enough she never caught me. I don't advocate that. That is wrong. But I was a kid just like anybody else. And that was bad. I don't advocate that. But think of it this way. Terror would be like saying, I'm afraid God is going to strike me down. Yirah is like, God is so holy, majestic, and worthy that I cannot help but humble myself before him. because we understand he has the ability to change us, to do something better. An illustration to help somebody might be, if you think of yourself, I've never been to the edge of the Grand Canyon, but some of you may have been there. And when you look up at the Grand Canyon, or you look up at a massive mountain, you're not terrified that the mountain's going to fall on you. You're not terrified that you're going to fall over into the canyon, but you become deeply aware that you're in the presence of something greater than yourself. And that is, to me, where fear can come into play. I understand God is something far greater than myself. He is something much bigger. In terms of a teacher leading a class, an employer leading his employees, or et cetera, parents leading their children, fear-based leadership can say, do this or else. Yira can say, Yira, if I'm saying that correctly, I recognize who you are and I submit myself to you. Those have very different effects. And in terms of a relationship with Christ, he is most honored when we submit out of love, isn't he? We fear, we understand, we stand in awe of the authority that he has. But this also referenced in the little bit of research that I did, the New Testament has a similar concept. If you read 1 John 4:18, fear is said again. There is no fear in love. But wait a minute, we love God, we stand in awe and respect. But it said the Greek word here is phobos. Phobos refers to fear that includes anxiety, dread, or torment. You know, to live in a constant state of anxiety because you fear someone, that's not really eliciting love, is it? It might elicit some level of control and obedience, but it doesn't elicit a willful, wonderful relationship. It says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear. That type of fear. Because, and I always have this part, a minister many, I was young. A minister many years ago used this verse to kind of help me in a situation. These next few words, because fear hath torment. It is not a torment to serve Christ. I can stand in fear or in awe of his greatness, but I don't have to stand in fear and anxiety that I'm just going to be flicked off into an eternity of torment because he loves me. Phobos refers to fear that includes that anxiety, that dread, or that torment. John is saying that as our relationship with God matures, we do not live in continual dread of him. So it did a little summary table for me in what I did, and I thought that was kind of cool. So in Proverbs 1:7, Hebrew, yira, reverence, awe, and honor. Proverbs 9:10, the Hebrew, reverence, awe, worshipful respect. But in 1 John 4:18, all of them referencing a type of fear. Phobos, Greek, dread, tormenting fear, anxiety. It creates the picture that we begin with yira, our reverence for God's holiness. We grow in our love for him, and perfect love casts out the phobos, the fear that can be used to torment us. The devil operates in that fear, doesn't he? The devil operates in the one that is a torment. The fear of the Lord is not cowering from a cruel master. It's standing in awe before a holy Father. That's something I read that I thought was really good. The fear of the Lord is not cowering from a cruel master. As a teacher, I'm not interested in being a cruel master. Just to use that as an analogy. I'm interested in being someone who works to love his students, but they respect that I have a level of authority and control because that's normal. That brings order, that keeps peace. As a teacher, it is okay for students to have a quote-unquote healthy fear of consequence. It's good for students to have a healthy fear of disappointing someone they know that cares about them. But if a student sits in an unhealthy fear from a dominant adult, then the kid will likely get very little positive experience from being in the classroom of that teacher. If someone is more worried about constantly exerting that level of control, they miss the opportunity to help someone change for the better. The two don't always conflate together. Now, again, you may have to operate on the level of control, especially when you're dropped in a situation you don't know anybody and you're like, okay, we ain't gonna have the chaos. That's a little different. That might be a temporary scenario. But long term, building that relationship and helping instigate change is for the best. The best way to manage a classroom. So all that to lead up to this. If you said pick one best classroom management strategy, besides establishing clear boundaries, I am not their friend. I love them, but I am not their buddy. I'm not their classmate. You establish clear boundaries. You establish clear expectations, and you're consistent. but nothing replaces the next. And this is what I've learned over almost 30 years. Build relationships. You build relationships. In 1 Peter 5, in 1 through 3, the elders which are among you I exhort, who am also an elder and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. Feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind, neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being examples to the flock. Now all that to gather from it. My job as a teacher is to be an example. What should be our goal to be before people in the world, or the people that we care about, or the people that we interact with? To be a positive example. Just like I need to be a positive example to the people around me, I want to be a positive example to my students. Classroom management and discipline can be misconstrued, especially when you're a younger mind, or just you're in a single, what's that called? When your line of vision is one pointed in one direction, when you're just tunnel vision, yes. If you develop tunnel vision. Classroom management and discipline can be misconstrued as opportunities to just be tyrants. You will. And that phrase has a place. But if you work to help people change, there's a different meaning when you say you will. Okay, he's telling me to do this just because he cares. I may not agree with him and I still don't like it, but I know that big guy, I better do it while I'm in here at least, because he's going to change my behavior. So there is an understanding that can come. Classroom management is not just an opportunity to become a tyrant. If people do not really care about their students the way they should, then it can be a terrible scenario. But as a Christian, I think about all this as an analogy. As a Christian, it's not about me being super spiritual. Look at me, everyone else around me. Aren't you just pitiful that you're not me with my spiritual experience? That's terrible. That's a terrible way people feel, isn't it? Who's going to want to change and become different if I make someone feel that way? Oh, I'm so sorry you weren't me. Let me tell you something. I ain't never prayed that about you. Yeah, I'm like, thank God you ain't me. But anyway, bless your hearts. Be thankful. I need to be careful with the way I present this ability to show people that there is a different way. Classroom management is not an opportunity to become a tyrant, just as an opportunity to share my experience is not a way to make someone feel beneath me. Not that anybody would want to do that. As a Christian, I need to care about others. I need to care about how I treat them. I need to be careful what I say about them and to them, because if not careful, let me tell you, it comes back to bite me. That's just the truth, ain't it? All of us live in the real world. Come on. If you're not careful about what you say and how you say it, it can come back to bite you. The man in our photo appears to enjoy his place as the center of attention. How do you know? One simple strategy the computer made him. It did this for reasons. It uses algorithms. How did it make him? What's he doing that no one else is doing? Standing. What else? Holding his head high, and one other thing. His arms are crossed. When they depict Jesus, often how are Jesus' arms? Open. Austin performed it. They are often open. Saying, I welcome you. You matter. That's what that speaks. The man in our photo appears to enjoy being that center of attention. But I do not infer that he has a positive relationship with the people around him. So the question for me, how am I doing building relationships with the people around me that I say, you need to love Jesus. Jesus offers the best life. They may act in subjection to him, but they do not seem to be enjoying that subjection, do they? And that is sad. You can have a classroom where kids understand their place in subjection to the teacher, and guess what? They can still enjoy the class. They can still enjoy the scenario and the teacher in a classroom. You can enjoy your students and enjoy your teaching and still maintain classroom control. Enjoyment and discipline do not have to be mutually exclusive of the other. You don't have to think that to have discipline, you forego enjoyment. They are not necessarily mutually exclusive entities that can't cohabitate, that can't exist together. That's not true. They can happen together. Actually, you can better enjoy when you have good classroom management and discipline. That brings a greater joy. If a teacher, but this is what I have found, and if I could tell a young beginning teacher one thing, as an aged one now, if a teacher does not have good relationships, even if the kids behave out of a certain level of fear, The kids and the adult are not connecting on a level that makes learning meaningful. You're not gathering anything meaningful from the experience. One might still be controlling, but the kids are not fundamentally changing. Kids know whether or not they matter to an adult. And I thought about this as an analogy for making sure, because I have a duty as a person who says he loves Christ and wants to live like a Christian before other people, right? I think about this as an analogy for making sure other adults know that not only do they matter to me because they're a human soul, but they matter to God. It matters communicating that to people. Before some people will understand this concept, though, they will need a relationship with God's people first. They got to interact with us, right? They got to experience us, and we got to build a relationship with them, or how will some people ever know anything about their life needs to be different? And it made me, as I was reflecting and doing the lesson, I thought about, offering some of the community outreach that the congregation here has offered is so important, because some people simply will not attend the church. It's unfortunate, but I think we all live in the real world. Are there people who will come to an event, but they will not come to a service? And welcome to the South, where there's a church on every corner. And they don't like something, they can go 5 feet down the road. Honey, some of them exist one beside the other. My mom used to tell this funny story. And my mom wasn't overtly humorous in the sense that she did not seek any attention. But my mom had quite the sense of humor. This is a story she told, and that was a joke. There was one church here and one church here. One church was singing, "How many stars will there be in my crown?" while the other church sang, "No, not one, no, not one." Now, we laugh because that's humorous. But the thing is, it's a very present reality in the scenario that we have to live in. So it made me think, when I was thinking about this concept, when it came to my mind about classroom management and things we can learn from real life stuff, and offering outreach because people won't always come. I'll give you a scenario now this is a true story that happened to me, and I'm sharing, but I think it's fine to share. I don't think anybody would ever be offended or probably even hear it per se. And if they do, I'm just telling the truth. It did really happen. So this past school year, it's kind of funny. I was in a meeting with I had 2 teammates, and we were in a meeting together. And y'all, I don't even remember what we were discussing much. I mean, I think we were talking something church related, but nothing deep or nothing profound about teachings or beliefs. I don't think, unless it was very minor with one particular teammate, my younger teammate. I truly cannot for the life of me remember exactly what we were discussing. I do know that my younger teammate, I think both her parents are pastors of some sort. But something came up, and we were just having honestly a nice casual conversation. And this truly happened. I can't help but giggle. Because I'm not offended. I know how to take my other coworker. I've been with her. We've worked together longer than some people have been married. I can handle her. All of a sudden, my other coworker, out of nowhere, she, in this conversation, she has an intense personality. I get tickled. She looks at me. I've known her for many years, and she popped up. "Well, no offense, Danny, but I don't have to wear blah, 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 blah." And I was like, I didn't bring that up. We weren't talking nothing about that. Nothing. And it caught me off guard. Now, that's just my colleague's nature. You cannot take her personal or take offense. And it struck me kind of funny later, but she mentioned a specific clothing item. And it kind of took me aback because I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared for that. But you know what? I couldn't figure out why I have no idea why other than the fact that in interacting or seeing people around me, she's gathered something maybe. I would assume she's seen it or gathered it. I've never said anything to her. I do not freely discuss certain things because you got to be careful. You need God's guidance before you discuss some things. But it just got me. And I'm very comfortable with her, but I didn't get defensive. What would that have helped? Nothing. I did not feel the need to correct her because that would have been horribly inappropriate of me at the time. It would have led to nothing. She made it very clear how she felt. And she made sure she told me, and I really have no idea why she even did it. It's kind of funny later. But for whatever reason, she took that opportunity to let me know how she felt. And I think this is an example of why it's so important that it just made me reflect how nice it is that we are open and we've been allowed, Pastor Allen has blessed and allowed this to have certain events, and you can't just have just anything. That's understandable. Because those are opportunities for people to get to know us who visit. That is an opportunity for them to see us outside of what mindset they've created of their own, what impression they've created of their own. I mean, I promise you, it got me, and I teach middle school, I'm pretty good about, you got to be quick on your feet. But it was like, man, I don't know if the poor girl just saw a door and she jumped right through it. I don't know why, I don't remember. Actually, maybe there was something brought up, the other younger one, not meaning anything to me. There might have been something brought up that did allow that door, now that I kind of remember. It doesn't matter. The point was, I think that they're offering opportunities outside can be a good way to be an example to show people the change Christ makes in our life in a positive setting. But the only way they're going to get it is if we work to build what? Relationships. That is the way it happens. And I have a strong relationship with this coworker, but it was kind of funny later. When we had our little young people activity on Thursday, we only had one little fella who was able to make it. The others were tied up. But do you know they cared enough to explain why they wouldn't be here? They cared enough to explain that they would be back on and there was something going on in life. But you know what? We have to care about that one as if we had 101. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to us. If we got one, we're going to love him as if we have 101. The others, hopefully, will be back according to the parents, and I appreciate they cared enough to make sure we knew that. But it takes work. We've had to try to build positive relationships with the parents. Isn't that how things happen? That's an introduction to us. An introduction to what we say we believe in. The life we say is better. People do not care what you say. That's just the reality of life. They care about what they see and what is witnessed to them. The mom of our little fella who came Thursday night, I felt very sorry for her. She's a complainer. But she's had a little bit of a health issue, and she'd be okay, I think, if I shared it. And we love her. We very much love her. We care about her. We want a relationship with her, not so that she'll praise us, but that she'll feel the love of Christ through us. When I build a relationship with my students, I just want them to know I care, that what I do is for their success. So before she left, we knew she'd had a little bit of a rough time with her leg. We all that were there agreed in prayer for her situation. And do you know, she sent the sweetest follow-up text afterwards. And I don't share that because there's no glory to us as people that were there, that we're nothing. I think I could safely say that. I share it because if it weren't for that community opportunity, we might not even have been interacting with this person. It's quite possible there would be no interaction because the person has said she's so cute. She's like, yeah, I might surprise you one day and show up to church. And we said, you surprise us. You just come on anytime you want. Because that's our goal. Not that she'll just be a person here, but that she'll understand she's loved. And I think of my coworker's comments. For whatever reason, that was prominent. I don't know. I think I might know why now, because some stuff is coming back in my brain. She just saw an opportunity. That was prominent in her mind at the time as we were having a leisurely chat, and boom, she laid it on me. But no, she loves me. She's not being hateful. And I love my coworker. But I didn't linger in the thought about what she did. But the devil's real. He won't, now I'm not saying he's put this thought in her mind, but I know the devil's cruel. He could put in her mind, yeah, don't waste your time going there. I mean, isn't that what the devil can put in their mind? I mean, that's just how the enemy works. I have no idea if she battles that thought, but it's not above the devil to plant those thoughts. So if she ever, I just thought about, she's an example, if she ever attends something, whether it's community or interact with us outside of church, she's an example of someone who needs people to show her the love of Christ and combat the thoughts, the prominent thoughts the enemy would put in their mind. You just show them. You build that relationship. Matthew 20 and 25 through 28. But Jesus called them unto him and said, ye know that the princes of the Gentiles exercise dominion over them, and they that are great exercise authority upon them. But it shall not be so among you, but whosoever will be great among you, let him be your minister, and whosoever will be chief among you, let him be your servant, even as the Son of Man come not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life a ransom for many. I have authority over my students, but if I do not have a good relationship with them, that authority can become a misery for them and a struggle for me. I read in these verses, he gave his life a ransom for many. He didn't just say, I'm the Son of God. No, he put action behind his promise. He submitted to what needed to be done to give us what God knew we needed, a Savior. If I don't have a good relationship with students, authority can become a mystery for them and they struggle. And it can be a struggle for me. Jesus has authority over my life. Because I have a personal relationship with him, I do not want to disappoint him. I love him and he loves me. He gave his life as a ransom. He has authority over me, but he's not a tyrant. Humans can be tyrants. Humans can expect, to use the term, submission or whatever, think of the photo, but they have no concern for that lack of relationship. And I think I don't want to be that person with the people I interact with. I don't want to just be, well, aren't I fortunate I'm me, and oh, bless you being you. No, that's terrible. In John 15:4-5, I'm almost finished. Abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine, no more can ye except ye abide in me. I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. Without Christ in our lives, we cannot do anything for him. We only understand Christ's authority and have a connection with him after what is established. Now, you only are in the vine, you're only grafted in, you only understand Christ's authority and have a connection with him after what is established, a personal relationship. If that's what's expected for us to function with Christ, how could I expect it to be any different with me and people? Before you can be productive and understand and submit to the understanding of his authority, and he gave us a free will. He's very clear about that. I thought it was just interesting. It never hit me that way until I did this. Just like what you work to do in what I find to be the most effective strategy of dealing with young people, build a relationship. That is what makes it work. So I'll leave the thoughts with you. Yes, ma'am.
Oh. Obviously, when you look closer into it, you can see the intricate details of what you're talking about this morning.
Yeah.
It just gave a really neat picture for me.
Yeah.
The initial.
It's interesting. We can all get something different, can't we?
Yes. In light of this text. I'm pretty certain that's what it was about.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I tell you, a lesson like that can help us in all walks of life, can it? On the job or whatever we're trying to accomplish in the family, trying to raise children, grandchildren, whatever, we're at the grandchildren stage of it now. But a lot of good points brought out. And I thought, I'm going to take just a second. I thought of a situation where somebody was working one time. It's been years ago. And I thought of that. I don't know why that come to my mind, but when I seen that picture and the man standing there over them like that, and that's kind of the way this guy tried to be their boss. And it was just so sad because he didn't try to have no relationship with them. And I mean, it's just a job, and trying to be like that. And when it come time, there's some of them going to take up some money or it was a common practice for people at this place to take up money for their boss and get them a little gift. And it went around, and a lot of them wouldn't put in anything. And this is a true story, and it ain't even where I work. It's just one that I heard about. But I really felt sorry for the guy because they wasn't putting in, but he did it to himself. I mean, trying to be overbearing or whatever. But these situations are real. They're real in every walk of life. So that was really, really good message in that lesson this morning. Thank the Lord for all that he does. We'll take a little bit of a break and then we'll move on to service shortly, Lord willing.